Finnegans Wake by James Joyce, Book 2, Chapter 1, Section 227. The grocer's bawd, she slips her hand in the haricot bag. The lady-in-waiting sips her sup from the paraffin can. Mrs. Wildhair, quick doctor, helter-skelts up the causeway. The flashed instinct she herds. If a tinkle of thunder, the widow McGreevy she knits cats' cradles. This bountiful actress leashes a harrier under her tongue. And here's the girl, who she's kneeled in cold fashion. And she's told her priests, she's put on a chap, this last not least, this Wakese woman, who she writes foot fortunes money times over in the nursery dust, with her capital thumb, buzz, all runaway sheep bound back bo peep, trailing their teens behind them. And this way went they, and those ways went they, Winnie, Olive, and Beatrice, Nellie and Ida, Amy and Rue. Here they come back, all the gay pack, for they are the florals from Fancy and Pansy to Papa Very's blush. Forsake me not. While there's leaf, there's hope. With prim Tim's ruse and Mary May's blossom, all the flowers of the Ansell's garden. But vice reversing, they're out from the palms of perfection to anger arbor, tree rack, monoton, scrousely out of scout of ocean, varied with woad. What tournaments of complementary rages rock the divlin from his punch-pole to his tummy's shanter, as he displayed all the oathward science of his visible disgrace. He was feeling so funny and floored for the cue. Oh, Lover, which girls as he don't know who's Hugh? If Goosey's gazius would but fain smile him a smile, he would be fondling a praise he ate some nice bit of fluff, but no jest reveals the uncouth. They're all odds against him, the beasties. Scratch, start. He dove his head into Watmurray, gave Stuart Ryle a puck on the plexus, wrestled a hurry communion with the gillybeg, wiped all his signs martial and menial out of Shrove Sunday Macpherson, excremunted as freely as any froth blower, into Mac-Isaac. Had a belting bout chase to chase with McAdoo about nothing, and childhood's age being I the shame least tell, a tartaran tasteran toothsome, tatascone, tortoon, vestimentivorous, chlamydophasian imbretilated himself, for any time untellable with what hung over to the Manognochi middle, from the Maxicaris of the Breeks. Home. All while Mush Misuis from this Mungy Moundsy, praying in his mind, son of Everolin, within himself he swore, Macnoon Maggery Mag, cross of a coppersmith bishop, he would split, he do big squeal like holy trashpat. Seek hells where, from Yank Islanders, the Patriots' absolation. Magnitza, Ginnick. He takes skiff come first da green day, over a wide tumbler, rough and dark, till when bow of the shower show of the bower with 3 shirts and a wind, pagoda permittent, crookle event, the Bruce, the Coriolano, and the Ignacio. From Prudhoe's to the secular, but from common to the nouter. Bye-bye, Brasolis, I'm breathing. Our war, dully grey, a Conan's dream of lotus circles, he here, Schluss fini, Gelschasser no more. Mishtanery for the ministrary to all the sems of Aram, Shimaki anavera, mums for maxim, bands for books, and Dudge some Dora for hedge hung, Shaul mastris, and Uncle Silence, coach in diligence. Disconnection of the succeeding, he ho-hog himself for Carberry banishment care of Pennsylvania, British, America, to melt Mrs. Gloria of the Bunkers Trust, recorporated pronti by meteormancy and linguified Heisrogan. Quit to hail the hurry Laracor and catch the Panam Turcum and regain that absentee Tariisti his cita immediata by an alley and detour with fair card available gentrity years. Right for Rovi the roader? From the safe side of the distance, libera nostalgia beate lorenti otuli euro pra nobis. Every monk his own cashel, where every little ligger in his own liogotenente with inclined jams and full purview to his prononos and to the deretine at his re dos. Fuse finister, feud escaper? He would, with the greatest of ease before of waiting mid-hook, by dear home threshold, on the raging canal for other sights of Jordan, heave a heavy water boy, make one of Hissins, with a knocko cow and a chow collegians, and fire off. Gio giorno, foul subustioned mulmud, his first epistle to the Hebrews. From Cernelius slum time, prepositus of Tumaria to the clutch in the Antioch, salvo, ledigs and jointuremen. No more turgeon scowls, free leaves for everybody's. All tin salmon in the yard, with harm and aches till farther alters. Wild primates not stop him from at rearing a writing in handy antics. Nom de plume, goutstrap Finlands, and St. George for the merry Inklanders. And don't you log if his vine shanky's schwemmy, for he's the general, make no mistake in he. He is General Jinglesome. Go in for scribenary with the satiety of Arthur's in SPQR-ish, and inform to the old sniggering publicing press and its nation of sheep-copers about the whole bloody troth between them, my lady of milady, made melody of malady, she the lalage of lionesses, and him her knave arrant. To wild Rose LeGilligan from Croppy Crowhor, for all within crystal range, Ukalepi, Lothers Leave, Had Days, Nemo and Patria, the luncher out, Skilly and Carubdush, a wandering wreck from the Mermaid's Tavern, Bully Famous, Noddy's Calves, Mother of Misery, Walpurga Snacked, Malish, he would bear to untired world of Limoncono Nolstria, and what a strip poker globe trottle they pairs would looks. How whole fallows his gopher, the Sabbatarian, might faction split his beard? He too had a great big in the megafundum of his Tomashunders, and how her letty shape his gummer that congealed sponzar. She had never cessed at waking malters among the Jamasons, since the duft and meat axe delta made her microcosm as gap as down low. So they fished in the kettle and fought free, and if she bit his tell about all hat tiffin for there, he would just sit it all right down, just as he would just set it up all wrathfully, rate and blotch and void, yielding to no man in him's ignorance, seeing how heart silly sorry he was, owning to the contrition of his bike-stool, and reading off his flesh-skin and writing with his quill-bone, fill full 9 quires with it for his auditors, Caxton and Pollock, a most miraculous, jeer my head, sind book, for all the peoples under the presidency of such as of Sco non Sco. A had Tobe Heldon, thoroughly enjoyed by many, so many, on block at boy rut season, and for their account utterly admired by her husband in soul intimacy, about whose told his inner sense, and the gruesome heads Yorick of his spectroscope, and why he was off colour, and how he was ambothed upon by the very spit of himself, first on the cheek side by Michelangelo, and besounds that's over on the old jowly side by Bill C. Babby and the suburbs formule. Why, the provincials drolo expelled him out of his homity-dometry, narrowed knee domum, osco de basco de pesco de bisco, because all his creature comfort was an omelette. Finas herbas in an arc finis, orbe, and no master how mustard, mine never meant he could neither swalk in none, neither swim in the flood of Cecialism, and the best and scorchest way of blacking out a quarterluck of all the sorrows of Sexton, until he would accoster her cum il faut in teto douce, as a wagoner would his mud-heeldy Wiesendunk at their tryst and Parisice, after tournaments of 2 years, bread cast out on waters, making goods at maturity. Mondamoiseau of Casa Nuova and Mademoiselle from Armentières, Neblov's Nivo novio and nubian enoviacion, osi tanti tempoli. He would sigh through severals of sanctuaries, may what may, might who might, as so as to meet somewhere, if produced, on a demi-pension for his whole lifetime, payment in guttusly music, and poisonal company, following which, like ipsi secum, when he fing on to foil the fluter, she could have all the GSM she moo-hooed after, for and rickwards to herself, if, including science of sonorous silence, while he, being brung up on soul butter, have recourse of course to poetry, with tears for his coronation, such as engines weep. Was lief worth leaving? Neige. Told doth trin zo crasing stone arti reminiscensitive at bandstand finale on Grand Carriero, dreaming largesse of life-size over early lived offs. All old satyrs of so sceptre, highly nutritious, family histrionic, genitrixling with Avis and Avia, that simple pair, and descendant down on veluti pads by avuncular process to Nurus and Noverca, those notorious nepotists, circumpictified in their sobrine senses, patris all of them by the gloss on their germain faces, and their so serene eyes like transparence of vitricus, patroots to a man, the Arca-made levers of his econome world. Remember thee, castle throwing? Once prosper up street, now stohong baroque, and oil paint use up whom, if ye'll trace me there, lit to where was a hovel, not a havel, the first rattle of his juniverse, and ting-tum tingling, and a next junipaddy got a petty gussy's jiffit pope, while ish shone, my God, alas, that dear old tum-tum home, whereof in youthful port I prayed amook the verdi grassi convict voles soul daisies, and cloitered for armament in thy bosom sheet, his mouth full of ecstasy, for shing young thing in China from Yoro Yum across the Timor Sea, here pung, maladventure, shot pinging up through the arrow ruth of his wisdom. Who thought him a funner? Oh, feast king of Shelleys, by googling lovey regally, Frey therum eagerly plumed, and was but gumboil outwithy prods, wretched some horsery meagy plods, coffin acid, o darkery, ploods dens floppins mugurdy, as though it had been they one in two. Holy sanguish blooded up, disconvulsing the fixtures of his phiz. A pang with his temporary tour made him a crazy chump of a havajubsilias. Joshua Croesus, son of Nun. Though he shall live for millions of years, a life of billions of years, from their rosest glows to their violast lustres, he shall not forget that pucking pugases, howly house bowls, and bloody acres, like nothing on earth. But, by Jove, Cronides, seed of some, after at he had bait his breastplates for forgetting his bird's place, it was soon that he rehad himself. By a prayer? No, that comes later. By contrite attrition? Nay, that we passed. Made exorcism, so is richt. And it was so. And Malthus Mortimer resumed his soul with go Fergius off to Alad out of this. An old Stein song. He threwed his fit up to his ears, rolled his polygon eyes, snivelled from his snows, and blew the guff out of his horny pipe, the hop-joint jerk of a ladle broom jig that he learned in Locofoco when a red-hot turnspite he. Under reign of old Roastin the bowl ratskiller's radios. Why was that, man? For he's doing her wrong. Lookery looks how he knots in his entrails. Mookery mooks, it's a grip of his gripes. Seekery seeks, why he's biting his head off. Cookery coax, it's its spurt of coal, and may his tar pitch dilute not give him chromitis. For the moive that blinks you blank is mostly carbo, where the inflammabilis might persuive his comburenda with a pure flame and a true flame, and the flame all to gasser suit. The worst is over. Wait, and the doubly mag may gang to preases with dinny fineen me county ho in the lost of the Gleamens, sousy moost. For he would himself deal a treatment, as might be trusted in anticipation of his inculmination unto fructification for the major operation. When peep, a message intermitting interskips from them, pet, on Hersian waves. Call her Venice names, call her Estelle, a butterfly from her zip-clasped handbag, A wounded dove started from escaping out her forecoats. I'll wail for yous, O Dorherlint, the poetesser. And around its scorched cap she had twilled a twine of flame, to let the latest know she's married. And Pim it goes back bold, tot burns it so lest a krallebear come back to Erind. Hers before his even posted penned. He's your change, think you, methim. Good afternoon, madam, mind the step, please, stoop, oh, to please stop. What saying? I have sore under from to him now, dear mater shore, so, come pleasely, till I can get redressed, which means the end of my stays in the languish of ting-tangle. Is you zealous of me's, brother? Did you boo mighty loud? You supposed to be on the unconditiously rejected? Saintly laid, can that sub stuff? Witchy Willie, stop up, Mevron, and sit in my lap, Pepette, though I'd much rather not. Like things are, MDS is all invincibles, decoded. Now, a run for his money. Now, a dash to her dot. Old cocker young crowy Cephada son. A brand new speed hound outstripperous on the wind, like a waft to wing weary. One or a sauce to a coastguard, for directly with his whoop, stop, and epilepsy dindando a tishy in appreciable less time than it takes a glaciator to submerge her, and at lang this was he again a gob before the trembly ones, a sparks gap off, double daskished, cotton orlop, in a simpler sailor made, and shaking the storm out of his hiccups. The smartest vessel you could find would lazily him on her knee as her lucky for the Rio Grande. He's a pigtail tar, and if he hadn't got it too thick, he'd a telltale toll of his picture on a wall with his photo in the papers for cutting mutton legs and capers. Letting on he'd just be japers, and his tail cooked up. Goal, it's one by its length. Angelina's, hide from light those hues that your sin bow may bring to light. Though down to your dower strip he's bent to knee, he mount no leggings here, for a haunting way will go, and you need not make your mow. Find the French for frocks and trains, lace it into shocks of such as touch with show and show. He is guessing at hers. For all he is worse, the seagoer, hark to his wily geese's goosling by, and play fair lady, and note that they who will for exile say can for dog, while them that won't leave ingle end says now for now. For he falters, how he hates to trouble them without, but leaving Codhead's mitre, and the heron's plumes sinistrant to the server of servants, and rex of regums, and making a bolder dash for liberty of speech, he asks not have you seen a match being struck, nor is this powder mine, but, letting pun plays pass to earnest, haps thee, Jeonofergs? Now. Haps thee, Mejontes? Now how? Haps thee, Percosses, Nuncibellis? Now how? Aski, go on. Mikako, get. Ping and ping, wan, ping, puan, pang. And he did a get, the annoyance, and slink his hook away. Alliger come alliger, like a chymista in chamisas, whom the harikana hurries and hotfoots, zingo zango seger, to hoots of utscoot, urgurd, hamal, kum, yala, yawash, yak, for he could chiapo chew upon a scarp snack of pure underfallen Englisk, melon moon or tartar tortoise, suki saki, or sopa as rascally and as baskly as your cheese-chalk cow could span it. Makoto, what cacrio de galaga nausi is, yet right divining do not was. Hovo bovo haffogate, hoki dematsi in kamicha. He had his spirits all fallen on him to vet most grisposely. He was bedizzled and debuzzled. He had his tristiest cavalier on, and looked like Bruddy Howe. A shelling a cockshy and be donkey shot at? Or a peso passant to join the armada? But sin Chopinza could any body which walked this world with eyes wide open have looked twinsomer than the curl he left behind him? Candidatus, Virodosus, Orilusens, Cinelab, of all the green heroes ever wore cotten breeches, the whitemost, the goldenest. How he stud theirs with himself's mooxt kevenly, and that anti-revolutionary, the churchman child-father, from tonsor's tuft to almonder's toves, a hagiography in duo trigasumi, son subtimost of sire's 6 tusks, of Maya Queenie's sign osier, heavenly body time in wreath of his near sissies, a mickly dazzly eely oily, with Lewis scuttles and soul netster, by Zvezdal's priestest, their trail, the attractive and dim dandy penis, knows the play of the eyelids, with his gamecock spurts and his smile, like would glue. The souciest sourire ever weanling wore, whiles his host of spritties lus pillar in durnies, they went pea-henning, a ripadara pidapad around him. Pilgrim, princips, kerelor, kevenor, in Eucharistic congratulations, quite purringly excited, arp derped, alluding to him by all the nicknames in the litany, with the terms in which no little Dulcinea ever thinks about implying, except to her future's year, and sending him perfume most prey puffs to set his fire, more than to tease him. Shall we hope? Now you've mass-muled. You trilogolect a bit? Yes, Mick, ye missy? That he, the fine-hued, the fair-hailed, the fair-head, might vouchsafe unto each but every one as far as Safras durst assoon, the have mercy on hers of his kiesier license, meanings, and o'er the injurious till imbether were. We know you like Latin with esses and impures, and your liber as they see. We, certainly, like gurgles love the nargly gargly, so ara bg. Tell that old Frankie Boyack to bellows up the tumbucky in his tum-tum argon, and give us a gust of his gushy old goof.